Yo, what's going on, people?
Hey, yo!
I'm liking this little loop here.
What's good, y'all?
What's good? What's good? How is everybody doing? Another installment of Dope Dynamics, joined by DJ Cincy Star of Booty Papa Chicken Friday Nights, Request Box Live, and proud worker and proprietor and helper and community giver over at Q Kids. And also we're joined by DeWine of The Feminist Is Up. I'm your man Steve, real name, no gimmicks, and we are missing one member, but I'm sure they'll be joining us soon. How the hell are you two?
I'm awake.
Yeah, I'm doing okay. I'm pretty exhausted, but it's been a good day.
You had a long day since?
Yeah.
I had a good day, man. Today was one of those days where, like, my boss recognized that I am not just a cog in the machine, and I'm vital in moving along the business, and choked out some compliments. He is the type of guy where if you're doing good, he will tell you. So that felt good. But I'm sorry that you two were so tired. Y'all look tired, and you look tired.
I was about to say.
It wasn't even that I, had to do a whole lot. It's just, this fucking heat was having the energy out of me for real.
See, that's that Yankee living of yours, man. You're not used to this good Louisiana down south Creole weather. You didn't think?
It's like this here probably more than it is there. It's just. Hold on, I know a Yankee didn't just call me a fucking Yankee.
Well, my family is as old as the South itself. I'm ducking most of them. So they come up here talking that crazy shit. I'm like, I didn't hit the lotto. I don't know what you're talking about. For everyone that's tuning in, we got a birthday coming up. Got a birthday boy sitting up on the panel. Birthday man.
What? Happy birthday, Cincy.
Yes,
turning 28 years old on Friday.
What? Turn up.
Yes. 28's wishful thinking, but yeah, I'll be planning to turn up.
What do we got going? What do we got going for your birthday, Cincy? I know what you and I are doing, but what else is going on?
Sorry, what was that again?
I said I know what you and I are doing. We got a thing that's going to be happening. I'm going to go pick up mine. But what are you doing? What do we got going for your birthday?
Man, I don't really got nothing going on, man. I'm spending my spending my time with you good people here for real. Be on Request Box, and then after I'm done doing the show with the girls on Friday night, I'm gonna jump into booty popping, shaking mode. And
are you going on Enough Said Radio?
What's up?
Are you going on Enough Said Radio? Wait, what girls?
No. The Q Kids. Yeah, they got a big performance downtown for Juneteenth on Friday, and then another one on Sunday. So I'll be at those.
Okay.
Yeah. Proactive member of the community. We love to see it.
Yeah, I guess so, man. If you want to, I'll be busy at the Young Conservative Convention. Not being a part of them, you understand. I'm just taking names down. I'm like, what was your name again? Because you just said some wild shit up on stage, right? I like to keep track of these people. I can't wait to celebrate Cynthia's birthday party. Amazing guy. Again, I've been making this announcement all week. If you were not there for the emotional episode of Request Box last Thursday, where Cynthia showed his ugly cry face, man, it's not attractive when he cries. I have turned over the reins to the talented DJ Cincy Star for Request Box, officially heading up everything over on the Hold Up TV music. And otherwise, he's got personal projects that will be rolling out. But it's looking great for the Hold Up TV network. And then we just made a big announcement last night for the jealous prince. I mean, the Pink Princess, who will be hosting her own show on the Hold Up TV network. I believe she settled on the name Princess Bex, especially if you're nasty, is what she's going to call it. And she'll be talking about all the wild stuff that she likes to talk about. We still got to pick a date on that. And then finally, DeVinky and I's episode falls on Juneteenth. So me and DeVinky going to go wild out. We're going to be incomplete. We will not disagree on one thing. This Sunday, we might disagree on some stuff, but I'm coming for the establishment because I'm going to stick up for the last two people in Texas that didn't know that slavery had come to an end. It's not actually two, but I like to imagine two African Americans like, what? How long ago did it end? So I'll be sticking up for them. I got some interesting stuff. What are you going to talk about, DeVinky?
So I have some big news, actually. So for those of you guys who know or who are on Spoon, like you get money from the people who come to your streams and like donate whenever they come in and they drop spoons, right? So originally I was using the money for like anybody who said that they wanted to get therapy and they couldn't afford it. And so I was just like, oh, well, I'll pay for it. And so nobody really contacted me for that. And so like I put it in my server. I was like, hey, what are we going to do with the money for the Feminists Are Up? And nobody said anything. So I was kind of using it for Plants for Protest, but now I have a new ingenious idea and I was consulting on it yesterday. I will be developing a mobile app for better organizing protests and teaching people about how to actually protest and things like that. So hopefully, like my consult is tomorrow. It's just in the beginning stages, but like it was big news for me, like that I would be able to use the money from the Feminists Are Up to be able to build a mobile app that like might potentially help a bunch of people. So
that's dope. Congratulations to you. I'm very happy to hear that. The excitement. Also, folks, I'm just going to make DeVinky blush right now. I need y'all to go check out the last episode.
You don't have to do that.
You need to go check out the last episode. I guess we could agree on that. Since you were you there that night? Because
I absolutely agree. Everybody should check that one out.
Check out that episode.
I made a backup copy just in case she disagrees.
It's all saved. It's all my server, man. Some crazy stuff going on here at the Hold Up TV network. While I have you two here, I just want to give all the ado and say thank you, DeVinky. Thank you, DJ Cincy Star, for rocking with me, for always believing me. I want you to know that is extended across the table. I believe in the both of you. We are brothers and sisters in arm in a struggle of monotony. I gotta tell you honestly, man, I'm starting to get a little frustrated with this situation in Texas and the police and the rolling out of the information, because every day more information that comes out, and just the complete inept response of these. I don't know. I'm trying not to blanket blame, but it always leads me down one path. Somebody should have did something, right? And I keep coming back to this meme to Vinky that I told Sensi about, where it was the police are killing black men because they're too scared, and they're too scared to run in the building to save children. So what exactly are they here for? Now I know that's a broad generalization. I know there are good cops out there busting, their humps every day to protect and serve. But yeah, this situation is really boiling over, and we didn't get the chance to talk about it on I guess we can agree on that. Let me kill this music. I don't know. I didn't tell you this, DaVinci, but almost all of our videos, Dope Dynamics, have been copyright hit. So I don't know if we got a hater or if it's just this bad music that I played from StreamYard. Let me make sure I stop this right now. There we go.
What? All of them?
Almost all of them. Almost all of them have a copyright claim on them. But at any rate, yeah.
It's Officer Johnson.
I knew it. Before we get into our main topics for the evening, I just wanted to get you guys' thoughts. What are your thoughts on all the information rolling out? I think they want to sweep this under the rug, but neither conservative nor Democrat is allowing them to. And I'm not talking about the partisan parties of evil duplicity. I'm talking about people. Regular people will not allow this to be swept under the rug. And on the heels of what happened in Buffalo, and what's already happened in Connecticut, and obviously, Columbine. What are your thoughts on this whole thing?
On which shooting? You gotta specify.
Oh, I'm sorry, the one that just happened in Texas with the little children. I know there have been multiple more after that, but there's something about the lack of police response and and just their fumbling. They're fumbling in the way that they're more and more information comes out. Like, I don't want to make any outlandish claims, but I was reading something today where it really was just them standing around.
There's photos. There's photos.
Just them standing around. But I wanted to get you guys' thoughts before we get into our main topics. What do you think? What should happen here? If you were in control, what would you do?
What do you mean? Like, I feel like I don't want to say that what I think in this situation doesn't matter, because it's really not going to help anything. But like, the pushback already seems like insurmountable in this situation, unless somebody uses the situation in order to divert attention away from something else they don't want other people to see. Because like, the woman that spoke up, I don't know if you guys saw this little tidbit, but there was a woman who they had initially arrested for trying to enter into the school. And then later she got like one of the cops to unhandcuff her. And she actually went in the school and got her kids and one of her kids' friends, and then came on out. And like, I heard, I don't know how true this is, but I heard reports that the police themselves actually went in the school and got their own kids. And there was just so much going on. And I actually, I was trying to look up more information on the woman who got in to get her kids. And the reason you hadn't heard an interview from her like after it happened was because the department said that they would violate her parole if she spoke out about the incident. And so she was really scared about that. And she went before a judge, and a judge was like, I would never violate your parole for giving information in an ongoing investigation. And so she gave an interview, and I haven't seen anything else from her since that. And I don't know what happened. And I feel like that just goes to show you, and this ties into my topic for tonight, but like, that just goes to show you, like, if they want to use it to divert your attention away from something else, like they will, because they have the capacity to cover it up if they want to.
Yeah, no, I think they're trying. I just think that and this is most certainly me, the side you guys don't get to see too much of me. This is the side of me that's like still believes in the sincerity of people, not the establishment. I have no faith in the establishment, but I believe that people, individuals, in spite of their differing views, won't let them. Right? There's too much information out now, man, and even if they can't be brought fully to account, this needs to go down in history and be remembered and marked, right, as one of the greatest moments of cowardice that's ever been shown on American shores. And for those babies, man, for those babies, it's insane. It's absolutely insane. Cincy, your thoughts, brother?
Oh yeah, I 100% agree. And a lot of times when we look at these school shooters, they display signs of cowardice as well. But these in this conversation, we're not just talking about him. We're talking about grown people who, supposedly dedicated their career to protecting and serving people of their community. So it's an even different level of cowardice, because now you have people duped. If you didn't have them duped before, now it's very clear that that's not what you're really doing here. So obviously this is well-wishing, borderline not going to happen. I don't know. I'd hope to see, but I feel like every officer involved probably should be at least banned, because I know like when police bans happen in communities, they can leave the state. That's unfortunate that
Right.
unlike a driver's license that gets banned, you can it carries every 50 state, but a police officer can get banned and then go find another job. That's a little bit ridiculous to me. And not only that, they were getting orders from above, from leaders in there, telling them and directing them not to do this thing. So, if it's me, you got to put an investigation on every department that arrived there.
Absolutely. And it's just crazy, man. It's crazy because I've been screaming from the rooftops for years, Cincy, for years, that policemen, lawyers, doctors, teachers, these are not just jobs, right? These are callings, right? The best of us should be applying for these positions, because each one of these things carries with it such a weight in our society, right? And you need ethical, courageous people willing to do what's necessary for it. And what we get instead sometimes is just not that. You know what I'm saying? And I don't want to disparage. Again, I'm not disparaging every police officer, but I am going to disparage those cowards that didn't do anything. You know what I'm saying? And for any of the right-leaning psychopath, like these, some of this stuff just cracks me up, man. Like, I haven't been in too many debates with conservatives about this, but I've seen some chatter from people who will never have a conversation with me about this on the conservative side, who are just trying to use word salad to explain it away. And I just, let me tell you my heart about one of the reasons I want the Hold Up TV to blow up. I hope to be in a room with these people one day, just for a second, not for threat of physical violence, but to completely and utterly tear them apart in a debate. Like, I hope to be placed in a situation where I could just sit up there and just go at a Tucker Carlson, where it's like, man, you can try to explain this away, you can try to sweep it away with partisan politics, but wrong is wrong. And you know what I'm saying? Like, you can't do it. You can't explain this away. You know what I'm saying? You can't. This is not an issue in any other country. It isn't. I mean, well, okay, it's a different type of issues in, say, the Middle East, and say the Sudan, and places where it was like the genocide police running in, and same but different. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is something that you can't just keep trying to talking away. And I'm not coming after anyone's guns. And I know this ties into both of your topics for the evening, but there's something way more insidious going on here. And I don't know if we ever going to do a conspiracy episode, man, but I have a deep-rooted conspiracy about why mass shootings happen. And you'd have to read the book 1984 to really know where I'm going with this.
Oh no, not George Orwell, please.
Or Brave New. You have to read these books to understand that. I think that sometimes, this is just Steve speaking and not without any proof, I really do believe there is a type of collateral damage, controlled catastrophe that our government implements to control the masses. You know what I'm saying? And that's as far as I can go while being responsible, because I don't want you guys to get drug into my madness. Y'all don't know what I do on the internet when y'all not around. Like, I'm a part of some wacky forums. You know what I'm saying? Like, I lead like 18 of them. So, but if you're interested, I can get you some literature, get you enrolled. There's a small stipend that you have to pay to our head chancellor, which is me. So just let me know, and I'll get you in there. Who wants to go first? The topic for the evening. Who wants to get a crack?
I don't know. My topic's a little bit dense.
No, I enjoyed it actually. I like the videos.
Oh, okay. So then maybe I will go first. So do you want to play the video so everybody can see them, or
I'm pulling it up as we speak. If you want to give a rollout to what it is while I get everything set up on my side.
You might think this
I didn't know if you actually started playing it.
No, not yet. Go ahead.
But your subject was really good too, and it made me kind of angry, of course.
What, the one I picked?
Yeah, because I actually watched that and absolutely so very angry about it. But it's something that we've been known for a hot minute now, so.
All right, I'm gonna play your video, and let me make sure the audio and everything's working.
Telling a Victorian child the internet exists, but we can't drink water that comes out of the tap. Imagine telling a Victorian child the internet exists, but we can't drink water that comes out of the tap.
Yeah, so I'm an environmental engineer and I know all about this. I wouldn't really recommend drinking tap water straight from the tap unless you really have to. Our drinking water systems are like decades old, and a lot of the maintenance that happens on them happens like after they fail. A lot of our distribution pipes are made out of lead, and there's biofilms growing on them, which is just an accumulation of microorganisms that eat away at the pipe and leach lead into the water. And also some of those microorganisms are harmful to you. The more expensive Brita filter will filter out the lead, but neither will filter out microorganisms. You need a reverse osmosis filter to filter out microorganisms. That will also filter out carcinogens like PFAS and microplastics. They're really expensive though. They're like $500. I don't have one. I use a Brita filter, but you can use anything like a Brita filter, and just don't let water sit around because the microorganisms grow over time.
Imagine telling a big.
All right, did you want me to play the second video as well before you get into it?
Please.
Okay.
Yes, please.
All right, I got you. Let's see. Here we go. And here's the second one.
You might think this is a joke, but it actually has a basis in truth. They did research on people born between 1930 and 1950, which showed that higher levels of lead led to greater cognitive decline. Lead use in gas peaked in 1969, which means those people have been breathing in all that lead for 20 to 40 years before it even hit the dangerously high levels it was at. Basically, the more lead they had, the lower level their brain functioned. It does explain a lot. You might think this is
Okay, take us there, my sister. What's going on?
Wow. So I just really wanted to focus on the lead portion of that, and like when lead was outlawed out of paints, and like, you know, it used to be in gasoline and so many other things, and like, you know, when you would run a car and the exhaust that comes out of the car, there was lead in the air, it was in the paint, and the exposure to lead, according to the National Academy of Science, was saying that lead exposure leads to like cognitive degeneration and everything like that. And they were explaining kind of some of the side effects of those things, like the outbursts of anger, like you can't regulate your emotions and things like that. And I actually watched a really good video going down the rabbit hole about examples of this and like quote unquote Karen culture and all that kind of stuff like that, and how a lot of people from the generation when those things were allowed are rapidly degenerating as they get older, and like how some of those people are members of the government, and they're making the rules for us, and how that could possibly affect us. What do you guys think?
So it's funny. What's up, D Love? What's up, Carmen? What's up, Fat Mantis? This is interesting, right? Because I 100% agree that something's wrong with those people. And if you're telling me it's lead, I believe that this is I would support this data, because I've also read some of the information about New York City's own pipe system and how corrosive it is. Obviously, we have the whole situation that happened with Flint. I've been long suspicious of the drinking water, even though somehow New York City still got rated as the best tap water. I don't know if it still is, like, in the country, but yeah, this doesn't surprise me. Long exposure to lead and other chemicals and microorganisms in the water that you're drinking, not to mention how far say, for instance, I don't know if you two know this, but the reservoir in New York is upstate. So it's about maybe 70 miles from me, and it supports all of New York City. So just imagine how far that water has to travel to get to the city, and what it's coming into contact with, and when's the last time these things have been maintained and addressed. It's disgusting. I don't know what to do about it. I have well water, by the way.
Like they said in the video, a lot of the times, these systems are decades old, and they don't do any maintenance on them until they fail. And it just the complete disregard for people like you and me is kind of like disgusting to me. And I really feel like there's a lot of people in Congress or in the Senate who don't do things about our problems in society, because they know that they won't be around to reap the benefits of their labor.
I agree with that. I 100% agree with that. I want to let Cincy tap it, but I agree with that.
Yeah, before I even get into lead, I mean, I think that's the 100% case with anything that comes to polluting the ozone layer and climate change, is that most of the people that profit from the things that destroy it don't care, because they're not going to be alive to see the result anyway. As far as the lead, I've read and I've heard a lot of articles about that. What I have not heard about, as far as like it being sick, but I haven't heard, until this article, that like the mental issues and it can have on you. I think everybody has heard at one time or another about the effect that lead in paint chips and things like that can have, as far as making you sick. But it does make a lot of sense that it would also affect your mental health. Now, when I first got done watching that video, it kind of got me interested in seeing like the health of my own city as far as that goes. And the Greater Cincinnati Waterworks actually has a website where it will show you every service line and whether it's made with lead or another material, or if it's like a combination of both. Okay. And so I think that that's pretty helpful in a certain point, because they do offer a service that if you have lead service pipes, which is the pipe that actually runs into your house, they will come and replace them. But I think the bigger issue is, just because they're willing to do that, when I look at a map like that, what about all the lead that's running through the actual pipes that's carrying that to my house? So how much of a difference is that really making, that you're willing to change my in-house pipes, but not the pipes in the street?
And just to put this into like perspective, like I'm just going to sprinkle in a little bit more information, because I was reading an article of an interview from a pharmacist. I believe his name was Mike Kim, and he owned he was the owner of the pharmacy, and he got to know a lot of sensitive information and details about the people he was filling prescriptions for. And he was saying that it's a cool job until you start recognizing some of the people who are getting their prescriptions filled at your pharmacy, and you realize that they're members of Congress. And you're filling prescriptions for things like Alzheimer's medication. The current Congress is among the oldest in history, and more than half of the senators running for re-election in 2018, at least, would have been over 65. The average age in the House of Representatives is 57, and that the average age in the Senate is 61. Like, I don't know about you, but like, those people are making the highest laws of the land, and these, like, I really just, I feel some type of way about that. I don't know about you guys.
Well, I mean, here's the way I feel about it. And I understand what you're saying. I want to go back to what Cincy said about previous generations and just their whimsical way they approach things with environment. For me, it's funny because someone in your Discord, DaVinci, asked about what the Christian perspective on this is, and I'll just speak for myself. I think there's enough justification biblically to warrant concern about the environment, because in Genesis it tells us that God gave the earth to us for us to be stewards over it, and to be a good steward you have to appreciate the gift that was given. And I take strong issue with Christians who think this is a second thought, but I also take strong issue with previous generations who I do believe 100% are like, doesn't matter to me. My wealth is tied to these interests, and my interest is tied to this wealth. And I'm not entirely sure it's about what we would consider generational wealth. It's more about empire building for some of these people. From my vantage point, they don't care enough to course correct, because course correcting at this point would really hit their bottom line. Now, to your point, DaVinci, about the older people in Congress and Senate, I won't pretend that I know what their examinations have to be like, but I think that you have to cognitively be able to do the job, right? I think that you should be under more cognitive tests, more tests in regards to your mental faculties than anyone else in the country, right? It's amazing to me that so many people have to submit to health screenings for county jobs and have to undergo mental evaluations as clinicians and therapists because they're treating people. But what about the people who are, running this country? Why not have them submit as well? Now, I'm not saying that you have to violate their privacy and make their mental health evals and their cognitive evals public record, but they should be watched closely. Do you guys remember there was a brief time where there was the thing with Trump and Biden, and it was going back and forth who was less mentally available? And I'm like, well, that's like picking between, one bad piece of fruit and the other bad piece of fruit. In my opinion, it's clear that neither one of these guys are there. I don't care how the Republicans try to gloss it over, but no functioning adult needs to use two hands to pick up a small cup of water, right? That seemed a bit crazy to me. But I wouldn't go as far as to say, because I feel like this conversation will head in that direction. So let me make my position clear. I'm not entirely sure I want to turn over the running of the country to a bunch of emotional, underdeveloped 30-year-olds either. You know what I'm saying? Like 40 is where you want to be. You want 40-year-olds running this country.
I don't know how I feel about that statement, Steve. Like, I don't think that 30-year-olds are necessarily like, emotionally underdeveloped, especially because like your brain fully develops at about what age? 25, right?
Well, they said 25 now, but now there are other studies, and I wouldn't put a lot of credence on it, that says that individually we can't know for sure because it's nature nurture type of situation. We can't really track who's fully developed. Most people can perform well enough to do a day-to-day task, but when it comes to being able to rein in their emotions and think critically about things, hopefully by the age 28, you've learned enough about life to think critically, especially if you're taking in care of other people. Again, let me just clarify. I'm not saying it's not possible, but if we're going to point to certain people of a certain age who are in Congress, who are senators, I think that it takes temperance and maturity, and that doesn't necessarily mean that these old mummies sitting in there like Nancy Pelosi, or on the other side, what's that fellow's name from the Republican side that looks like Emperor Palpatine, the one with the turkey neck? Always forget his name. Glasses, you know what I'm talking about. What's that dude's name? You give me Emperor Palpatine vibes. You know what I'm talking about. Anytime something bad happens, he's like, Well, it was the Democrats, and the Democrats did it. And I'm just like, why is that Giles Shea? What's his name? Is he?
Man, his name is slipping me, but I want to say he represents Kentucky. I'm almost positive.
I think that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But
are you talking about fucking Mitch McConnell?
Yes,
No,
Mitch.
no.
Fingers McConnell. But I'm just calling it like I see it to my conservative and moderate friends. Like, I agree that the mental eval should be strict. Like, you have to be at the top of your game, but at the same time, just because you are cognitively present, I have to make sure you're mature enough to run the country. Does that make more sense, DeVinci?
Yeah, I mean, I guess. It's just like I get really stressed out when like I listen to when I listen to hearings or I listen to anything where they're talking and it's like word salad. It's like barely intelligent conversation. And I get really worried about it. And of course, like it really worries me that like I think that they don't care or they think that it's blase because they won't be around to see what becomes of their decisions, or they don't really care because it's not going to affect them. And I really think that the issues that they vote on are more about them than the general commonwealth, if I'm honest, because like I think a lot of them just don't like being told no, or just don't like restrictions being placed on them. Like, do you remember the whole mask thing when mask mandates first rolled out and they were just making a big huff about it and wearing it on their foreheads and on their chins with their mouths out and all that kind of stuff like that, and not making like a really good example for the rest of the country when at the time like COVID was a really big thing.
Right.
So like it was very childish, and it reminded me of that whole lead situation and the emotional regulation type stuff. And then on top of that, this thing from the pharmacist saying that like, hey, I feel Alzheimer's medications for these guys. Like, it just doesn't make me very confident.
You know what's crazy? This documentary on Netflix. I suggest you guys go check it out. Zac Efron's in it, and he was going through his like, I want to know more about the world. I don't even think it was a phase. I really do think that he wanted to be have more worldly knowledge outside of his bubble in Hollywood. But like, you know, he filmed it, so he traveled around with this guru around the world, and they were looking at different places and how they handle certain environmental concerns, energy, water. And one of the places I was really taken aback by was when they went to France and they had completely deprivatized water. So in other words, you don't pay for water in France. They have these friggin' what we would consider like, fountains, but their fountains are hooked up to one of the most advanced filtration systems that has ever been developed. Like, and I don't want to misquote the science, but it is amazing what they've accomplished. And it's dealing with this exact same thing you're talking about, DeVinci. Like, they spent Skrilla to make sure people had one of the most basic but essential needs: clean drinking water. So here's the counter argument people will usually make, right? Well, water has been dangerous since, the BC era. People have been suffering with clean drinking water. I'm like, okay, but you can't say that on one hand and then call us a fully developed culture of the West when we're not willing to address something as simple as drinking water. And this is where I start to diverge from the conservative thought pattern, which is it always seems like there's a but, right? There's a but. And I'm all for addressing the culture war and the morality war, but ain't nobody gonna be around to address either one of these things. That people are dropping dead from overexposure to UV, right? And they can't get drinking water. Like, it just seems to me that our resources should be being poured into common sense areas. And the only thing I can come up with is evil. Only a truly apathetic, evil person would say, nah, nah, like, this is not on my radar. We have bigger fish to fry. How is this not a big fish? Like, how is this not an issue? And then I think a perfect point,
like I was saying,
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just I think that they don't care because it doesn't affect them. They can afford a reverse osmosis filter. They can afford filters for their water. Like, do you guys remember? I think it was last winter where I think their power grid failed or something like that, and people weren't able to get heat, and so they froze. And homeboy went on a vacation. He caught the first plane out of there. It's
Yep.
Do you guys remember that?
Yes, and I remember how people
that not an accurate representation.
And I remember people trying to come to his defense, and I'm like, bro, you have to call a bad behavior for a bad behavior. Like Ted Cruz, 100%, and this is the weakest part of their argument, Cincy, and this shit drives me nuts. They appeal to some form of higher capitalistic philosophy where they're like, well, if you have the means to do these things, we shouldn't judge someone poorly. I'm like, what? Bro, you took it. You're in the Senate. You're in Congress. Did we forget that these are supposed to be positions of high morality? Am I the only one that remembers that this is what it is?
No. And you know what? If someone would have said that statement about some random person that had, a wealthy person in Texas,
right?
Okay, I feel that, but we're talking about the leaders, the representation of the state, who also doubled down on Texas not jumping back into the national power grid on top of all that happening. So it was like, man, your leaders can't do that. You know what I'm saying? There's a reason the captain goes down with the boat or hops off last, one of the two. You know what I'm saying? That's just what it is. That's ridiculous.
You know what's a great representation of this conversation? I don't know if y'all remember this. Joe Rogan, for one time and one time only, had Candace Owens on his show, and they were talking about environmental issues. And she had said that for her, she feels like it's too partisan. And Joe basically got her on the cross, pardon that term, and was like, well, what is it? Yeah, just because it's partisan doesn't mean that it's not true. Are you saying that there aren't issues with the environment that we need to be concerned with? And I just, I go back to this movie Revolver, where this clinician described the behaviors of our leaders as a type of cognitive dissociative delusion, where they're just like, they stick their heads in the sand and it's like, no, we're not concerned about that. Because I really do think, y'all pull me back if I've gone too far. I really do think these fools think we're going to escape to Mars. I really think they think that we're just the Western expansion will happen again, and don't worry about it because we're headed elsewhere. But I know for a fact, ain't no poor people getting on any arcs going to Mars.
They're going to Mars. We're not going to Mars.
They ain't got a seat for me. Go for it, Vicky.
There was an episode of Love, Death, Robots. I don't know if you guys watch that show, but I absolutely adore it. Zima Blue was my favorite episode. But they have an episode where robots came back to Earth because it's a museum of everything that humans did wrong. And they discussed the multiple scenarios that rich people did. They got on their yachts and went out into the middle of the ocean with all of their resources, but they didn't bring anybody who could drive the ship or cook or anything like that. And another scenario was the bunker where they all holed up together. But again, they didn't bring anybody who knew how to work the filtration system or anything like that. And so they deteriorated into what they called advanced democracy, and they picked who they were going to eat every night until all of them were dead. And then there was one of them where they got on spaceships and went to a different planet. But when they got there, they realized that they didn't understand anything about agriculture. They thought that they were too rich to do some digging and planting and everything like that. And they didn't bring anybody who would do that stuff. And so the human race died out because they killed all the people on Earth with the environment, but they killed themselves by not valuing other people's contributions. And I just thought about that.
No, and I think that's a real thing. I think sometimes when I think about this is probably one of those things that really takes me to a dark place just thinking about it as a parent, right? Because for me, like it's not to be like morbid, but it's like, I'm closer to the end than I am the beginning, and I want a better world for my children, right? I want a sustainable world for my children. Every decision I make is with my children and children in mind, right? Leaving something behind. We're always so focused on generational wealth and equity and all these things. But I'm like, but we're not leaving something that's very important behind, a functioning planet. And to another thing, if we're going to go high sci-fi right now, I find it amazing with all their vast resources that automation is the direction we're going in, knowing how many Americans it's going to put out of work, right? Instead, if you really are thinking about colonizing Mars, why aren't we thinking about using automation in that regard? Why haven't I heard anyone say, hey, let's get the drones together to start doing advanced mapping of planets? Why is the first thing you think of with a new piece of technology is, well, those truckers, they better watch out. You know what I'm saying? Like, you actually, I would prefer a human being driving trucks on the freeway. I don't want Tesla problems when I'm driving with my family on the freeway. I have to worry about an automated freight that's going to run us off the road because it doesn't know that we're living. Does that make sense, or am I bugging out?
No, you're not bugging out, but I would argue that
No,
this is just an introduction to what they're going to attempt to use there, because just like a lot of things, in particular, I think one of the other topics DaVinci was going to bring up, it's all just a social experiment to them. They don't give a damn. They're just going to use the people they have
right.
at their disposal and see what happens of it.
Yeah. Go ahead,
And
D.
that brings me to the last point of this. I was going to bring up the Monsanto Chemical Company and the historically Black Pruitt-Igoe neighborhood in St. Louis and what happened there, and how it was swept under the rug. Because, like, if you bring up Pruitt-Igoe in any conversation, I know that people are just going to look at you and be like, huh? What? And there's so many neighborhoods just like Pruitt-Igoe, which I mean they've torn down now, but like Pruitt-Igoe was 33 buildings. It was a housing project. It was predominantly low income people living there, and they sprayed chemicals on them, radioactive chemicals on them. And it was just completely swept under the rug. And like you just can't tell me that the government didn't know about it, that like, even local government didn't know about it or know that it was going to happen or know anything about it. Like, you can't tell me that like they didn't get permission to do something about that, especially since Monsanto, I mean, they've had to rebrand, but they still exist to this day. Like, do you get what I'm getting at here? Like, I think if they can sweep it under the rug, they definitely will. And they do know about it. And they act surprised when we find out about it. Like, I doubt that if technology advanced so much that we could talk to each other state to state, country to country, that they would let us know a lot of what's going on in our country because they could get away with it. And I have a huge problem with that.
Oh no, 100%. And there's always going to be someone that makes the argument that the reason that the government slowly dispenses information is to maintain order. And a part of me understands that. But when it comes to atrocity, like, then why do we have a set of quid pro quo laws, right? If they don't reach the highest levels. And you don't have to look far, but you look at what happened in Tulsa. You look at what happened. You bring it up a lot, DaVinci, the community that once inhabited Central Park. Hell, if you look at what's going on in Chicago, truth be told, man, I'm hard on my community because I love my community. But if they wanted that situation to be done away with, if they said there was going to be no more gun violence, then there would be no more gun violence. It would almost be like, and let it be so type of situation. But I think this ties hand in hand with Cincy's concern, which is why so many gun owners are worried about their weapons being taken away from them, because let's not forget that the right to bear arms is not just to defend yourself from the immediate external threat. It's also to take up arms against a tyrannical government, a government that has gone astray and awry. And part of me, again, the conspiracy theorist, I know that they have lasers that could scratch my ass from space, so a little 380 ain't going to do nothing. But it could make the world of difference when the Gestapo's at my door and it gives my family maybe a second more to get out, right? Or make them think twice if we organize, against them and are prepared with physical. Calm down, YouTube and Twitch. I'm not leading an uprising, but you know what I'm saying, right? This is why it was an issue. This was an issue with the Black Panthers. It's been an issue in so many different regards, and I think all these things are interconnected. I just see the connectivity in regards to, we don't want to address the environment. We don't want to address corruption within. We want to slowly dispense information. But a part of me, just like you brought up, I can't even say that, brought up the vid earlier. I really do think that the only thing that will ever unite the human race is an external existential threat, right? Like, it's going to take something like that for people to really be united. And I'm not going to lie to you guys. There was a point when the vid, when it first kicked off, I'm like, man, this might be the thing. Because what did we learn? As much as they tried to demean it, and now who knows where we're at with this conversation nowadays, it didn't take much for our infrastructure to shut down, right? And even a part of me, I was like, well, why are they confining us to the house? What's going on? Is it going to happen? Is it finally happening? Is the Gestapo coming? But I think it's all connected. They don't care about us. They want to disarm us. They want to keep us dumb and stupid and fighting amongst ourselves. And what's even more sad is that we're willing to do that. We're willing to stay divided. Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Do you remember the guy who set himself on fire outside of the Supreme Court building on Capitol Hill?
Yes.
Do you know who he was?
No, I don't.
He was an environmental activist that he set himself on fire as like a political message,
right,
about like not changing the environment and everything like that. And do you remember how like in the news, like they just were like, oh man, yeah, this guy just set himself on fire outside of the Supreme Court and everything like that? There are people like the scientists who are chaining themselves to buildings, like screaming to be heard, like specialists in their fields, like people who have studied the environment. Like there are tons of people who are concerned about these things and want them to change and are doing their best to inspire this same like passion in other people. But like, I feel like their efforts are being smothered. Like I feel like my efforts are being smothered. And this is why I brought up the topic. Like I 100% think it's not because like, these things aren't important. They're just not important to the people who are in charge of making the laws about them.
Yeah.
Like, and that just makes me really anxious. Like I put a kettle of tea on because I wanted some tea, and I was just sitting there staring at the kettle, waiting for it to boil. And I was just really anxious. I was just like, what if there becomes a day in my life that like, I'm not able to stand at a stove and boil some water, because I no longer have access to those resources because things have deteriorated so badly, because like that could happen in my lifetime. Like I think a lot of people think, oh, well, it couldn't be me. Like you hear in a lot of crime documentaries that people don't take precaution because they think that this kind of thing would never happen to them or never happen in their city and until it happens to them. Like I don't want to wait until it happens to me. I wish that I say this expression often on both of our shows, like there's just too much food. People aren't hungry for it. Like they can't afford to pay attention, especially with inflation rising the way it is, and they can barely afford their rent. Like my rent just went up, and I just went to re-up my contract at my job, and they tried to lower my rate. Like
Yeah.
it. At what point does it become too expensive to go to work? Like, I wish people would ask these questions.
I'm at that place right now. I've had to fill up my tank 3 times at $40 a pop each time, which doesn't seem like a lot, but it is, because I drive a great distance to get to work. And this is one of those things, man, where, oh wait, what do you think, Cincy? Because it depresses me. It really depresses me. It's a somber show.
Yeah, I mean, it is, but I've been trying to think over that for the longest. I'm trying to figure out where they can even get off allowing this to happen. And it's just like a disregard for the principle of the situation. Is it's similar to the clean water, that it's it doesn't bother them, but at the same time you would think that should be a very laid in stone, like basic need of life. You have housing, you have nutrition, food, water. It's like, how do you ignore these so bad if there isn't foul intent already behind them? Because a lot of times, like even tonight, just me sitting here thinking of during this show, like, is it them ignoring it because it doesn't affect them? Or is it really that they do have bad intention behind it? Because it's hard to say a human being could ignore some of these things if they weren't already corrupted to begin with.
Boom. And this is why, like, I know I'm about to jump out the window, man, and I don't need you guys to agree with me on this, and I hold this to be true. I believe in evil, right? I believe evil exists, and I believe it to be otherworldly, and I believe that there are people put in play who serve something darker than themselves, who've committed to serving something darker than themselves, and their payoff is their instant gratification. It's the power they enjoy in this life and the power they weld over people. And we've seen it for centuries, right? Look at Rome. Rome itself, one of the greatest empires this world has known, was completely reliant on resources from everywhere else, but almost entirely not from Rome, right? They sustained off Egyptian grain, other imports, exports, and their expansion, feeding the legions. If you ever just do a study on that, it is amazing what they accomplished. Anyway, I believe in evil incarnate, right? And I believe that there are bad actors that are positioned in a place and they serve something darker than anyone ever wants to admit, and you could be an atheist, you could be a theist, but we can all agree that something dark looms in the background, right? Like, if you just look at it as a dysfunctional system, people in a dysfunctional system seldomly know that their system is dysfunctional. This is just how we operate. This is how my family is. This is how we do things. But there are some people who are sitting outside that system that benefit from that system being dysfunctional, and I do believe that goes all the way up, man. And this is where, like, again, I diverge from, the moderate position, and this is where, like, I think a lot of Christians really need to beat on their chest about this. Like, if you believe, again, I'm going to jump out the window. If you believe in a literal Satan, and you believe that he has agents that do his bidding, why is it so hard for you to believe that these people that are supposed to be leading us haven't been corrupted through and through to their core? You know what I'm saying? Like, and it's like, I'm not talking about communism here. I remember being homeless, man, and I was telling a buddy of mine as he was driving me somewhere to get drugs, probably, and I was like, man, I would work at a basic level if they just told me they were going to give me food. Like, that's how bad I was. I was like, if someone said, hey, you can work the next 6 hours and your pay is a meal, I would do that. And then I think about that nowadays, man. Why is it so controversial to say that we should work towards a society that meets the basic needs, the fundamental needs of people? And I cannot deal with the answer of why is this my burden? Because if someone says that and I'm like, hey, did you just say you were a Christian a second ago? Because then my next answer is love thy neighbor like thy love thyself. And then it becomes, well, who's my neighbor? Well, okay, what did the scripture mean when it says that? It didn't mean just the person next door, right? Do unto others that you would have them do unto you. It's a simple thing, man. Like, charity should not be controversial and it should not be politicized. Like, we should look out for the weakest among us, or we should just look out for each other. But we're the idiots that allow ourselves to be divided on the most basic levels, right? Like, I know what I'm about to say is not biblically correct, but if it comes down to it, in democracy, man, in a free country, I'm not really concerned with your belief structure or what gender you identify yourself as. If you tell me you're dying of thirst, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's not my concern right now. I'm like, this person just said they're dying of thirst. They are unable to obtain a natural resource that should. And I'll debate anyone on it. Like, why hasn't water been deprivatized in America?
Because capitalism has a bigger hold on people than anything. Did you see that article? I get notifications about these kinds of things, but they were talking about how, like, they were going to spray something into the atmosphere that would, like, make it harder for sunlight to filter through, and I was just like, oh, so y'all would rather fight the sun instead of fighting capitalism? Is that what I'm hearing? Also, Steve the Socialist, everyone, round of applause. I loved that.
No. Not the socialist. I'm just saying, man. Like, I had Liv on last night, Davinci. I don't know if you tuned in for that. Liv Who Waits.
Mm-hmm.
And
I love her.
Yeah, I love Liv. You're right. She is an intellectual powerhouse, trapped inside this meek little voice, but so many things were just, I was like, whoa. Anyway, go check that out if you get a chance. But I don't get it, man. That's the part I don't get, and again, like, I'm not outside of orthodoxy. I don't think so. I'd be willing to debate any Christian on the stance of, resources and stewardship over it. Their position would be that, we shouldn't worship the resource. And I'm like, I'm not worshiping in the earth. I'm saying that if you believe that God gave this to us as a gift and to have dominion over it, yes, and to plow the lands and work it, but he never said suck it dry to the point where it can't sustain itself, right? Like, that's just not a thing. And I'll give you, this is not for YouTube, but this is just for anyone watching on the recap. There was a Roman emperor that sent a spy to live amongst early Christians when he, I think it was around the period where Christians had lost the political protection of, the Romans thinking they were Jewish people, because they enjoyed that. At one point, it was like, oh, they're just another all set of, Jews. We're just going to leave them alone. It's weird. It's got nothing to do with us. But this emperor sent a spy in, and the spy lived amongst the Christians. And when he reported back to the emperor, he said they did charitable acts. They took care of the weakest of them. They gave what little they had to those around them and supported each other. And I'm like, and where is that? And I'm not saying that the church isn't doing that, because I know all the programs. I'm just saying that, like, imagine if we were all able to set aside partisan issue, spiritual issues, political issues to say, hey, we're going to address this together. I'm not trying to build utopia, and I think that's the thing people don't understand about the Christian position. That's where that argument might infuriate two folks like yourself. The Christians believe, like, hey, you cannot do what God is trying to do, right? You can't make a false version of it. But I would say to that, is it not our responsibility as the church to lead the way and lead the charge on this and continue to do what we did in the early establishment of the Western culture? Like, we should be the ones speaking up about this, man. Like, I'm not saying that they weren't, but the Flint situation, right? That's evil. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I got smoke for Democrats and Republicans. I'm like, yeah, you don't know when you're getting hoodwinked. This person just got up here and told you a bunch of lies, because guess what didn't get addressed? The water situation. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Ooh, okay. I sent Sensi a video. Do you know the one that I'm talking about, Sensi?
Yeah. Yep.
The one with
stuff.
yeah, no, it's in the chat, and I put a little finger and it said, Cincy, this one's for you.
All right, let me get that ready.
Yep.
But I'm sorry, I ramble. But does that am I making sense? Am I is that a far reach to say that like the issues that we worry about in the culture wars and political stuff, Ukraine, all these things, where it's just like, is it really going to take a flash, a solar flare, and for half this country to be burnt to cinder before we address the issue? You know what I'm saying? Like, does everything have to be partisan?
I mean,
you know, if there ever were a flash and a solar flare, the same people that are causing the problem right now are going underground and leaving the rest of us above ground.
That's true. That's true. I mean, we're culpable. I don't drive an electric car, and it's something we're looking into. We want panels. I'm culpable. I have well water, right? I know that I'm, quote unquote, speaking from a place of privilege, but at the same time, I'm also the type of guy that drives around giving away cases of water, right? I'm the type of guy, when we thought people were going to die at the beginning of COVID, I'm not going to take an old woman's water. If she got the last case, she got the last case. We just started boiling our water is what it came down. It just seemed more prudent to do that, and like try to protect ourselves. Let me see what DaVinky's taking shots at Cincy here. Let's see what we got.
No, I'm not. It was for him because it relates to his topic.
Why can't? Oh, there it is. Bam. Let's see what we got here.
Okay, for those who don't know, I've made a spreadsheet that's become a whole thing. Here's what it looks like. Oh my God. So today I went and added senators that represent all of the states of the US. And specifically, I went and added gun rights funding. This is the amount of campaign money that they're getting from gun rights activist groups like the NRA. So then I made a pivot table which adds up all of these types of campaign funds and puts them sorted by state. And I linked that pivot table back to the main spreadsheet. So when looking at the individual states, for instance, firearm deaths per 100,000, I can put that right up against the amount of money that was donated to their Congress members from gun rights activist groups. Right now it's sorted alphabetically, but then if I go and sort these types of donations from largest to smallest, here's what we have. The good states are on the bottom, and the bad states are up on the top. And look at that. The average firearm death rate from states whose senators received money from gun rights organizations is 59% higher than states that don't have senators receiving money from gun rights activist organizations. Also, look at this political affiliation. Anyway, I'm going to be adding more stats about senators, like oil company donations, big pharma donations, and stuff like that. So follow along if you like. Okay, for those who don't know, I've made a spread.
All right. I did watch this earlier. I'm going to let you guys go first.
Oh, it was for Sensi, so I'm gonna let him go first.
Yeah, so I think that's very interesting. Before I jump completely into the gun topic at the end, I'm going to have to go back in and click follow, because a lot of the topics that we've talked about tonight already, like when he starts compiling that list completely with funding and comparing it to issues that we face socially and economically, is going to be able to expose a lot of how, even like we were just saying, the way it may come off is corrupt, because the people that are getting the biggest funding happen to be aligned directly with some of the worst statistics that you can show. In that example, was biggest donations from the NRA lined up directly with states that have the worst issues with gun violence deaths. I have no doubt in my mind that you could do the same thing with opioids in funding and protection as far as rights for doctors go. So that'll be interesting to me to see. But I have seen similar work like that, but never from an individual level And I think when you have an individual doing something like that, it makes it, I would like to see your data or where you're getting your data from, but it makes me feel more credible because I feel like there's not $1 million behind you trying to put together a point. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't feel tainted. It doesn't feel, it just feels more sincere to come from someone than a giant organization that's also receiving funding.
Wait, so are you saying that like you let me just make sure I'm understanding. Are you saying that you are more apt to believe this gentleman's research because you don't think it's like privatized or skewed or biased, or?
Well, okay. Well, here's what I'll say. At the way he made it seem, it was biased. He had a point that he was saying.
Yeah.
But to this point, he's not being funded. This is his research or compiling of research that people have done, and we're getting it presented directly in front of you. When I go to a lot of other websites to do research like this, it's not necessarily just in a table form. And then when they do put it in a table or a graph, it's broken into small pieces, and the rest of the information you get from it is written basically in a script or an article, and that's where you lose. I don't want to say you lose the credibility, but that's where you can begin to distort those numbers based on the story that you want to tell with them. So I think he's doing a good thing, but I would like to see him continue on like he said he was going to do past just gun rates.
Okay. I guess my only issue was like, it's funny because I'm not going to take the opposite stance. I was just more concerned about since it was personal research, I don't have any way to verify his data. Like there's no way I was going to be able to do that before the show. But I'm gonna kind of divest here, man, because or I should say I'm gonna pull out because this leads us into your topic with the in regards to gun rights and gun ownership and the Second Amendment, and roll it out for us, man, because I know your position, but I'm not sure everyone understands your position.
Yes. So for me personally, I'll just state to everybody that's watching this now and then on the replay, I do believe in the right to bear arms in gun ownership. I don't believe in being able to pick and choose, say, the ban on assault rifles. That's big right now. I'm not a giant proponent on that. What I do have a major issue with is how easily accessible it is to get these weapons. So that's my biggest stance going forward, is that we need to lay down more regulations on how to actually, make sure that firearms are getting in the hands of people that have some sense or aren't going to use them for chaotic, reckless things. And I think we've talked about a little bit on here about even other countries and how extensive their background checks are, and having to go through interviews and have references and all sorts of stuff. I don't have a problem with that. My biggest thing is and this is what a lot of people will kick back at me when I say, like, the Second Amendment, it says our right to bear arms, yada, yada, yada. They'll be like, okay, well, back then we had muskets. I mean, you had to pack a ball and a gun and do this and do that. But the part they ignore in what you brought up earlier is how another part of that was to protect yourself from a tyrannical government. And back then the government was using muskets too.
Right.
The government doesn't use muskets anymore, so I don't want to protect myself from them with a freaking musket.
Right.
That being said, some of the laws and loopholes are actually outrageous. And I shared these because they're just a few days ago they came out and said that, I believe it was the House that finally came to like a bipartisan agreement that they still need to, officially put in paperwork, but there's like an agreement here. But I think it's twisted, and this is why I'm going to say it's twisted. The first article, or I should
wait.
say the second article I shared with you.
Let me get that up. Sorry.
Yep.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, brother.
All right, I'm gonna shoot to the video, the one about the suppressor.
You want me to play it or not?
Yeah, if you want to play a few seconds of it, that's cool.
All right. Let's see.
So the ATF's attempt to dismiss the state of Texas law, which deregulates made in Texas suppressors, has just failed. So let's talk about this. But real quick, before you jump into this video, if you think the ATF needs to be abolished and the NFA needs to be repealed, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe. Also, I want to thank the sponsor of this video, which is Snorum Desert Institute.
Oh, he got his sponsor. Blah 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 blah.
To be successful in the environment.
Did you mute it because he was talking about his sponsor?
To prevent the ATF from being able to regulate firearm suppressors that are made in Texas and sold in Texas. In response to the lawsuit filed by the state of Texas, the ATF filed a motion to dismiss in an effort to throw out the case and end this whole made in Texas suppressor issue. Well, we just received an order from the court in this case in regards to the ATF's motion to dismiss and their attempts to get rid of this case. Now, this lawsuit arises out of the Texas House Bill 957, which passed last year. And if you're not aware, HB 957 aimed to exempt from federal regulation all suppressors that are made in Texas and remain in Texas. HB 957 exempted silencers which are manufactured in Texas and which remain in Texas from federal laws and regulations, including the federal registration requirements under the NFA. This bill that passed requires that these made in Texas suppressors be stamped made in Texas, and it also bars all local agencies and law enforcement officers from enforcing inconsistent federal laws against Texas residents who purchase and are in possession of these made in Texas suppressors. The claim behind this law and bill when it passed is that since these items are made and sold in the state, they do not fall under interstate commerce, and therefore they fall outside the purview of federal regulation by the ATF. Currently, federal law regulates suppressors, making it illegal to own a firearm suppressor for personal use without paying a tax to the federal government, and also without you having to register them with the ATF and the federal government. Now, after Texas passed this law last year, the ATF sent the state of Texas a letter essentially threatening that they will enforce the NFA and GCA's regulations against these made in Texas suppressors, and that they will enforce it against anyone who buys or sells these items. After the ATF sent that warning letter, Texas decided to file a lawsuit on behalf of individual Texas plaintiffs against the ATF. In the lawsuit, the state of Texas argued that heavy federal taxation and regulation of firearm suppressors made in Texas for personal use in Texas does not survive Heller's recognition that the right to keep and bear arms is an individual fundamental right. The enshrinement of constitutional rights necessarily takes certain policy choices off the table. They also argued that federal regulation of firearm suppressors made in Texas for personal use in Texas cannot be justified as regulations of interstate commerce or as laws necessary and proper for carrying into execution such regulations of interstate commerce. They therefore argued originally that the court should enjoin the federal law as applied to taxing and regulating firearm suppressors made in Texas for personal use in Texas because the law violates the Second Amendment. In this section of the complaint, they also stated that the taxation and regulation of firearm suppressors made in Texas for personal use in Texas does not survive intermediate scrutiny, which is a much lower bar of scrutiny to pass. Instead, they argued for strict scrutiny review on these types of regulations. In their lawsuit, originally, Texas also pointed to the fact that there are no other examples of direct federal taxes on the exercise of a constitutional right. But for whatever reason, the ATF gets away with this taxation on Second Amendment rights. In response to this lawsuit filed by the Attorney General in Texas, the DOJ/ATF responded by filing a motion to dismiss the case. A motion to dismiss is simply a legal mechanism where either side can seek to have a case completely thrown out by a court because of something like a failure to state a claim. In their motion, the DOJ argued this case should be thrown out first because the court lacks jurisdiction to hear the case because of a bill that's called, or a law that's called, the Anti-Injunction Act. And they claim that it bars these types of claims from being brought by the state of Texas. The second argument that the DOJ made in their motion to dismiss this case or to have this case thrown out was that Texas is barred from bringing the claim because Texas lacks standing because there is no injury to be claimed by the state itself. At the federal level, legal actions cannot be brought simply on the ground that an individual or group is displeased with a government action or law. Federal courts only have constitutional authority to resolve actual disputes, i.e. cases or controversies. One of the key elements of proving you have standing is showing that you as a plaintiff have suffered an injury in fact, meaning that the injury is of legally protected interests, which is A, concrete and particularized, and B, actual or imminent. The DOJ claims that the state of Texas cannot prove any of these as an individual. For all those reasons, the DOJ and the ATF requested that the court throw this case out altogether. In response to the ATF's motion to dismiss, the state of Texas filed a response and actually amended their original complaint. So that's one thing that a plaintiff can do, is they can amend their complaint. Now, when they amended their complaint, they then went back to the court and argued that the ATF's motion to dismiss is now moot because the complaint was amended and all these issues that the ATF brought in their motion to dismiss have now been fixed. However, in contrast, the ATF argued no, the ATF was still of the position that the amended complaint did not fix any of these issues and that the court should still just completely throw this case out. Now, after this happened, there was still some questions about what the court would actually do. A lot of this was up in the air, and there were some sentiments that maybe the court would just completely throw out this case and ending this Made in Texas suppressor issue as of right now. Of course, there's always the appeal process, but as far as the district court review of this issue, concerns were that the court would just completely dismiss this case and just throw it out. Well, the court just ruled on this issue, and they found that on April 26, 2022, defendant filed a motion to dismiss, arguing that the Anti-Injunction Act bars plaintiffs' claims and that Texas lacks standing. On May 17th, plaintiffs timely filed a response to the motion and a first amended complaint. Accordingly, the court ordered the parties to meet to discuss whether the defendant's motion was moot by filing of the amended complaint. On May 20th, the parties filed a joint status report and motion to extend the deadline to respond. The court has discretion to apply the original motion to dismiss to the amended complaint if the deficiencies and arguments from the first motion remain relevant, or to dismiss the motion as moot. Having reviewed the applicable law and the docket entries, the court concludes that the defendant's motion to dismiss should be denied as moot. Further, the court concludes that the parties' joint motion to extend deadlines should be granted in part. Accordingly, the court orders defendant to answer or otherwise respond to plaintiff's amended complaint no later than June 15th, 2022. Now, that's all the legal mumbo jumbo, but you may be asking yourself, okay, what does that all mean? Essentially, what happened is the court said that the fact that the plaintiffs amended their complaint has mooted this whole motion to dismiss that the ATF wanted. The ATF wanted to dismiss this case right here and now, but the plaintiffs amended their complaint. One of the things the ATF was saying is that that didn't moot their motion to dismiss, and they still wanted the court to throw this out. But the court says, no, we are not going to throw this case out. It is going to proceed forward. So this lawsuit by the state of Texas against the ATF and the DOJ on the Made in Texas suppressor issue is still alive. It is still proceeding forward, and we will get to see what actually happens. And the court still is taking control of this. This is only at the district court level. Eventually, it will make its way likely, in my opinion, to an appeals court level. So we will still have to wait to see. But as of right now, the court has not dismissed this. They have not sided with the DOJ, and they said, yes, there are still legitimate arguments that need to be made in this case, and it's proceeding forward. Now, one thing I would like to note in this video that I have in others is that if I were in Texas, I would not engage in this Made in Texas suppressor issue. I would not purchase or possess these Made in Texas suppressors until this case is resolved. That's because there is a high risk that the ATF will still go after people. They will still try to prosecute people. And they said as much in a letter to all FFLs, pretty much just notifying all residents that despite this Texas law, we will still go after you if you have these Made in Texas suppressors. But if anything further develops, I will let you all know. If you like this video and like support the channel, one of the best ways to do that is to like, comment, and subscribe. All those things help to fuel the algorithm or fuel Al Gore's rhythm. It adds fuel to his jet, and it signals to YouTube that you guys see value in these videos and in this type of two-way news. Again, I want to thank everybody who likes, comments, subscribes, who hits the notification bell, who shares these videos. You guys are directly impacting these videos, impacting this channel, and helping me.
All right. Let that man get a promo off and everything.
Man.
Here's my question, right, in regard to this whole thing, man. Why would one need a suppressor? What is the practical use? And that's a real question. What on a self-defense level, if someone's coming to my house and I'm defending myself, unless I'm concerned with the sounds that it's gonna, it's gonna bother my neighbor. What do you need a suppressor for? I want to make the dump loud, and I want to make sure anyone else with you knows that I'm dumping loud. So maybe they'll scurry too. So can you explain that part to me, Sensi?
Yeah, so I think for the majority of people who aren't a fan of weapons, I think they're gonna question the same thing you did, which is extremely valid. The only logical explanation I can come up with is that they would use it in hunting. That's really the only logical thing that I mean, it doesn't make sense for self-defense as far as like in the home or outside of the home. To me, the only reason it would make sense is if you were going hunting, and obviously I think in that situation the noise would be an issue.
Okay. Okay. So this is always the argument. What caliber gun is appropriate to hunt deer, bears, turkey, and other rural area game? Like what is the appropriate level? Like I assume that a shotgun is good, but apparently the range and it's got a wide spread, like Bill Burr said. You don't want a wide spread when you shoot, you want pinpoint accuracy. What's the appropriate level of velocity weapon for hunting, bro?
Yeah, no, I understand that. I guess the thing that you would say is, all right, if you're using a rifle, and I'm not talking about assault rifle, but just like a rifle, you're getting longer range, better accuracy than you would with a pistol, which, I mean, it can travel very far, but you're not going to be able to do it accurately after a certain amount of distance. So we're basically rifle level ammunition, which isn't always bigger than a handgun. But like you said, it has a higher velocity. That's what separates the different weapon classes.
So here's my thing, man. This is just me, uneducated on all the laws and everything that's going. Wait, so what's the article about before we go any further?
Well, actually the article is because I wanted to make different points from different articles. So what we just watched, the biggest thing that I wanted to there were two major things I wanted to take away from that video. One was that there are a good amount of states right now that are claiming themselves to be gun sanctuary states. Mm-hmm. I don't know how viable that is, but this is the first example of a state bypassing federal regulation by manufacturing and only prohibiting use of a part of a weapon or a weapon strictly in their state, which is how they were able to get over on the DOJ and the ATF, because it isn't interstate commerce. Right. So so basically they're saying they can regulate their own things. Yeah. The second part about this, and why I brought it up in relation to this bipartisan bill that they're working on right now, is the point that he said, you can get a suppressor right now. The government has no problem with you having a suppressor, as ridiculous as it may sound, as long as you pay them. The second thing he said a few minutes after that was that the Second Amendment is the only amendment in the Constitution that has any tax added to it. So they will do reform on gun laws, and it wouldn't surprise me when the bipartisan bill presents itself if you see a lot of situations like that where they can say they're doing this and doing that, but in the fine print, if you look hard enough, you can throw them some cash, just like automatic weapons.
Yeah. Okay, I got you.
If you just throw them enough cash, they're gonna let you slide on it.
It's always the dollar, man. It's always, pay me, put the money in my hand. You can have whatever.
I mean, I've been told you capitalism is evil.
Okay, well, capitalism in itself is just a vehicle in which political ideas. Don't you do that? You got to be consistent. If communism is just the political ideology, capitalism.
Because capitalism relies on a class of people to exploit.
See, but that's by definition, that's not what it means any more than if I said that the ideas of Marx are just an attempt to decentralize the ability for people to grow in capital, for people to come out of their station. So do we have a problem with these two ideologies, or do we have a problem with the people who have used these two ideologies?
No, because like this is built into like the structure of capitalism. That's what I'm saying, is that there must be a class of people to exploit in order for it to continue to survive. And in most, if not all situations, it only ever always descends into fascism. Like if I really don't understand how you can get around that.
Well, okay. Okay, so let me ask you a question. Are you familiar with ethical capitalism, a response to that very sentiment, where it's like we have to make sure that things are done in an ethical manner where people aren't exploited? Like many people have written papers on this and addressed this, but the thing that I don't understand is how could you? So what is the system you would put in play as opposed to capitalism? That's
You
all
already
true.
know the answer to that question.
But then that falls flat on its face, then, right?
Yes, it definitely does, because I think that the same people here would be the same people in charge of regulating things. And so I think that, of course, it would fail here, or it would turn into like what they're doing in China, which is this like weird capitalism, communism hybrid, you know?
Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. I know exactly what you're saying, but here's my point. I'm looking past it, and I'm not saying that capitalism is perfect. Let me just make sure I say that, because there is the predatory propensity into it, like that is built. There is a predatory nature in which the people who use capitalism just in this manner, which is like we have an issue with this, but pay a little extra and our issue goes away. Of course, I take huge umbrage with that. I think that though, when it comes to the topic of capitalism versus communism, only one of those two systems, and especially if we're talking about the right to bear arms, allows you the ability to defend yourself against the government. Not that you're going to be able to do it well. They send that missile. It don't matter what type of scope you got on that rifle. Like, it's coming and you're about to get toasted. But that's my point, is that, again, we come back to the bad actors, right? I, again, don't know why you would need a suppressor, but I'm not a gun enthusiast. But I'm saying that I don't need a suppressor. Again, if I'm going hunting, I know I live in upstate. None of these guys got suppressors, man. When it's deer season, it's a bow, one shots, bow, one shots. Shoot better, hunt better, is my point. Since you need a suppressor, are you out there?
No, I don't need a suppressor on my AR, because if I fire my gun, I expect you and fully want you to hear it, so you understand I'm not fucking around right now. But one thing I will say is, like in Hamilton, they're allowed in the state, but in Hamilton County where I live, it's not. And even actually for hunting, you can't use anything other than a bow here. So I mean, there are ways to get around the noise of a gun. You could simply just use a bow instead, and that's what they make you do here.
I mean, the gun thing is so crazy to me, right? Because here's the next thing, right? The mental. Well, let me ask you guys this question: are we missing something? Should we be addressing the mental health narrative that's being pushed right now?
Yes,
there's no money in mental health. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. You can go ahead. I'll make my point afterward.
No, please go ahead. I interrupted you and I didn't mean to.
Yes, I'm not going to have enough knowledge on, mental health systems in place. I know it's definitely lacking, but just like there are so many loopholes in these laws. So even if you do put in the requirement of, requiring extensive background checks, a mental health check, whatever that may be, we still have laws that exist where you don't even have to do any of that if you sell your gun privately. So all the crazy people would still have an option to go to a gun show and buy their guns. And that's like one of my biggest issues that I've caught on recently, because especially here, gun shows are a huge thing. Like you can't go a weekend without them. So it's like, how many people actually even are buying their gun through the fairly regulated system in place?
Right. I mean, that's a good question, and I don't have the answer to that. It's just that again, where like it brings me to this circular thinking, like how do we then deal with the phenomenon of mass shootings, right? And then maybe I should sit back and do a little bit more research on what mass shootings look like in other countries, but specifically for America, to have so many within the last decade, it just brings this tension to the conversation where it's like, well, something has to be done. We're not entirely sure what has to be done. So I guess we're just waiting for the next mass shooting to happen, or we're dealing with the anxiety, rightfully so, of gun owners saying that, you can't take my fundamental right away from me. And that again just seems more of the powers that be pitting the groups against each other, which goes back to my insidious thing. I don't think, unless Da Vinci has like a presentation she wants to make where supplementing actually I know that supplementing communism in place of the one tyrannical government and political ideology for another is not going to bring anyone. In fact, and the day they say, hey, we're going democratic socialist in this country, is the day gun sales go through the roof, right? The day before, actually, because that day they're going to be like, guess what, you ain't got no guns, right? And that's the reason that China's able to operate the way that it is, because in that form of communism is like there is no democratic process, there is no right to bear arms, and that's, well, let me hear from you, Da Vinci. What are your thoughts on gun laws? Do we have the right to protect ourselves from the government and other people?
Like you said earlier, they've got lasers that'll scratch your ass from space. If they want you gone, like, it's not even a fight. I still want them though. Like I know personally as a woman, like I don't know, because I haven't been carrying my blick lately, because I've got I've got some type of feelings about being pulled over, and you know how they ask you, like, are there any weapons in the car, and then you have to say yes and everything. That makes me extremely nervous. So I left my cute little blick back home, and I haven't been traveling with it for a while. But I wish I felt like I could carry it.
I mean,
I surely do.
Here's the thing, man. Like I specifically think that minorities should be armed to the teeth legally when I think about certain things that have happened, right? You know what I'm saying? Like a Rosewood situation, a Tulsa situation, all the other situations that aren't in the history books. And even if you live in a place like Chicago, I'm not going to disparage the black person who owns a gun legally when they're dealing with black stones and they got to walk their kid to school. In fact, this is going to be an unpopular take right here. If there were more legal gun owners in the city of Chicago, I guarantee some of these gangbangers would be wary about pressing someone's kid on the way to school, because your dad is going to come outside and he's going to get cracking. But the conversation about gun ownership it's not going away. You know what I'm saying? And it isn't. And I don't trust that there are people in their right mind leading us in this. And like even with this,
they have lead poisoning.
Yeah, they got lead poisoning. They're going crazy. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, it's one of those things, man, because if you're being fair about it, you have to address both sides of the table. Now, this is the one way you don't address it. Gun owners. The response should not be, and I've heard this floated on the internet. It's been quite some time. I think it was more during the Connecticut shooting, but your dead babies doesn't reverse my right to gun ownership. You know what I'm saying? And it's that lack of basic human empathy that is insane to me. You know what I'm saying? It's absolutely insane to me. But I don't know, since you're that.
No, I mean, there's absolutely a point in time where it's better not to say anything. That's one of them. And
Yeah.
I don't like it either myself, because I shouldn't say because the actual shootings do paint an extremely bad picture on gun ownership. But statements like that lead to, a stereotypical belief of every gun owner being the same mind state. And that's just simply not true. And like you said, I mean, you have to have literally no empathetic ounce in your body to make an outrageous statement like that.
I want to bring something up that's going to make you both chuckle. You know, Trump was at the NRA rally directly after the Texas shooting, right? Well, guess what? Those people at that rally didn't get to do that day. Anyone want to take a guess? They could not have any guns that day. The Secret Service deemed it superseding their Second Amendment right. Like, hey, the former leader of the free world is going to be in the building, so ain't nobody going to have no guns. And they all were okay with that. And using that narrative and that line of logic, well, if there are more guns, we'll protect everyone. Well, if Trump was going to be safe anywhere, and I'm stealing this bit from Andrew Schultz and his guys over there, it should have been that day at the NRA, right? Everybody's packing, so he's going to be safe unless you're worried that someone unstable is going to do something. And that's where the logic kind of falls apart. Like, so you were willing to forego that right for, you know, an hour, 2 hours, however long he babbled on stage. It's just insanity. It's insanity. It's absolutely insanity.
Okay, I have a question.
Go for it.
Do you guys feel comfortable as Black men carrying your weapon?
Yes. Yes. I'll let Cincy explain. You answer, brother, but go ahead.
Okay, so I feel safe to an extent of safety of my surroundings in the neighborhood. I do not feel safe if that situation leads me to an interaction with the police. And that actually directly leads into something I want to bring up on the next topic. But yeah, no, there's like I feel two different, safe and not safe, depending on what the situation I'm in.
Also, before I ask you what kind of guns you have and everything like that, because I don't know about y'all, but I have a 6-hour P320. And homegirl's got some cake, you know what I'm saying? She's got some get up and go. Like I definitely don't feel comfortable around like police having my weapon, but like I feel like if I was in like an Ahmaud Arbery type situation, like where I'm just running and people run up on me or something like that, and like you hit them with the get back or whatever. Like, I feel like if those people, if white people live or didn't live from that interaction with me, that would pretty much be like a jail sentence for me, even if I was protecting myself. Like, I genuinely believe that. And that's why I'm scared to carry my, my blick, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like I feel like if I was ever in a situation where I needed to protect myself against a white person, like it would be over, especially if they didn't survive that interaction.
And that's saying a lot too, because you're in a state that gives extreme amounts of protection to the actual shooter. So for you to still not feel safe using it in defense, I mean that says a lot. But I mean, it's true. I feel you 100% on that one.
Cause like it doesn't matter where you are. Like I don't even have conversations with some of my coworkers sometimes because they're very out and loud and proud about their like Republican status and how much like they just don't like certain things. And it's kind of like dog whistles because you're saying you're racist without saying you're racist a lot of the time with those conversations. So I just don't say shit. Like I'm a nigga in a non-nigga place. I have nigga thoughts. I can't talk about that shit, but like I'll just hear some of the commentary from even my coworkers and it makes me feel that much more unsafe with like, you know, carrying a blick. And like honestly, I feel like I should have had it last year because there was, I don't know if I told you guys about the guy who was beating his girlfriend upstairs in the condo that I was living in. and me and my little teddy bear house slippers. Like, cause I called the police the first time it happened. The second time it happened, like I called the police, and like since it sounded like it was getting wild up there, like I banged on the door, and he comes out the door, and I'm standing there in my teddy bear slippers. You leave her alone right now. Like,
You stop this madness. You stop it.
you leave her alone right now.
Yo, and, but I want to speak to the thing about us feeling safe. You know what, man? I cannot, I 100% cannot say I don't relate to that, right? You know what I'm saying? But and I've been in situations, you know, we can talk about code switching and all that shit, whiteface, blackface, Tuesday black guy, Monday black guy, on another episode. But for me personally, I have diminished myself enough as a black man for the comfortability of white people in my younger age. I don't do that shit anymore, right? I don't do it. So when I'm in social gatherings and I hear some of that fucking extra rhetoric, you know, I meet that shit head on the same way I would meet you guys head on in a conversation about, you know, Patrice or any of the other things that we've disagreed about. Like I'm not doing it. And in regards to like how comfortable I feel, I pray for in that moment, like if there, because I live in an area where I think there's maybe I've seen 4 or 5 other people of color in this rural area, and I pray for the courage to bust down in that moment, because I'm not going to be thinking about, you know, their comfortability if they come from my family. You know what I'm saying? And that's what it really boils down to. I want to have that courage in that moment. And when it comes to the corruptness of the police, and they're over, you know, the over heavily handed prosecution of, you know, black people and their gun rights. Listen, I'm going to pray for that courage too, because if 2 corrupt cops come, law says I should be able to defend myself if they come wrongfully and illegally. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, and the only way I can see myself busting down like that is as a father and a husband. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm praying for that courage, because I think they count on the fact that we're going to be too terrified. But it's like, I'm not pumping bricks out of here. I'm a tax-paying citizen. You know what I'm saying? Like, you should
It's
be.
not about comfort though.
Yeah, but it's not about comfort, but it also isn't about like. And again, I'm gonna sound super black militant right now. I think that as black people, sometimes they've gotten in our heads so much where it's like, well, you're gonna have to make a decision, man. Like, if it really is that evil and that corrupt, and they come showing up, and I debated a gun owner about this once on Facebook. I'm like, would you hold these same positions? It was about the stand your ground thing. I'm like, would you hold the same position if it was 2 corrupt cops that were trying to hurt my family? And that's the scenario I'm talking about, right? If they were coming to do harm to Mrs. Holdup and little Holdups, would you hold this position that I have the right to put these men down? Men or women, I'm equal, right? If they're coming with some shenanigans. And I'm praying for the courage. I'll do that bit, because at least I'll know the truth, man. Like, if they come incorrect and it's about defending my family, like, I'm just hoping for the, you know, the wherewithal, the conviction of my words. Like, I don't care if you're white. I don't care if you're white, Mexican, brown, black, yellow, Puerto Rican, or Haitian. My name is Steve Dogg from the Zulu Nation, and I'm gonna put you down if you come around here looking for trouble, man. Like, and I refuse to end up like one of these black people in Tulsa, or in, you know what I'm saying, or in Rosewood. I refuse to go out like that. I'm not gonna allow. I can't. I think that we're too quick. Not we, as in us up here, man, but a lot of people don't have that same don't have that same scruple when it comes to putting down one of our own. So I'm not gonna show them any quarter, man. Like, I hope that answers the question.
Oh no.
Quarter.
I don't know. Maybe this is inconsistent, and maybe like this is just a thought that came to my mind. Like, but it's like, I feel like it's okay for me to think like that. Like, I don't have any family. Like, I don't have anybody who relies on me or anything like that. But like, you do, bro. You do.
And that's why I think the way that I do. Like, I have a whole exit plan for my wife and my family. We're out and about and some shit cracks, and like, I got to defend them. I'm like, do not stick around for me. It has been one hell of a ride, and I love you with all my heart. You get in the car.
You can't think like that. You got to be there for the little holdups. You know what I mean?
No. I think you might be misunderstanding. Like, it is my job. If it comes down to it, my life or theirs. That's what you sign up for as a husband and a father. Now, obviously, I want to get in the car and run with them. Don't get it twisted. If I can find them off me and jump on the back, like, drive, baby, drive. Like, that's what I'm gonna do. But I'm praying for the courage, man. I'm praying for the courage that some of those men in Africa, had to defend their wives against child soldiers and masked rapists coming into their villages. And like you said, DaVinci, we're always a breath away. And this is where, again, I guess I diverge from orthodoxy, but you can't believe in a satanic world filled with sin and not believe that any given second America could completely disintegrate into cannibalism. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't get to have both those thoughts in my estimation as a Christian. But I'm more than willing to debate it. We can sit down and reason from the scriptures, but you can't say that. You know what I'm saying? Like, if it's either full of sin or it isn't. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not relying on the goodness of other people in that instance, even with you guys, you know what I'm saying? Like, we got to be willing to protect. We got to be willing to protect ourselves. But I get what you're saying. I would feel a great deal of anxiety as a legal gun owner if the cops pulled me over. Like, of course, I'm like, well, how's this going to go down?
Man, I don't even keep it no more. Like, it's at the house collecting dust, which is a shame because it's beautiful. It's so...
DaVinci's got a picture of the communist sickle.
The sickle and the hammer on the side.
I feel like my topic's not worth bringing up after such an amazing conversation. It would only dampen.
We have to talk about it.
We only have 9 minutes left. We could save it for next week. I feel like we had a very great conversation, and it was like deep and poignant and meaningful. I don't want to ruin it with what some content creator said about big black women.
That's why I didn't want to go first, because I told you it's a dense topic.
No, it's good. Like, it's good. It's good. We'll come back to that. It is always next week. Or
is there?
No, I'm not doing it. You won't bait me into it, man. It's Cynthia's birthday week. By the way, we're starting, Cynthia and I kind of drug them into this. I keep making it seem like we came up with it together, but it's no N-word Juneteenth. Moving forward from this Sunday on, I am striking the N-word from my vocabulary again. I don't know how it made its way back in there, but it's done in honor of Juneteenth and all that our ancestors have done to free me from being under the weight of that word. I will be abstaining from that from this point forward. So if anyone wants to join me in that,
I said, good for you, bro.
She's like, good for you, but I'm not coming with you. Yeah, I can see the silence. She's like, I need that word. The red pill fools. You see that? That little audio graph stop moving.
Do we need to draft a document so she can have exceptions in this? I mean, you can join the party but have exceptions.
Man, I love y'all, but like, I don't know if you guys ever heard that thing that Morgan Freeman said, like, no, I think it was Samuel L. Jackson. He was just like, sometimes like regular words just don't cut it, and fuck is the only thing that does. And like, I'm a firm believer of it. Like, if a man is acting crazy and he's up in my face, like, boy, please does not cut it. Nigga, please. Like, that's...
I get that. And that's why, like, when I tried to stop cussing on here, man, it wasn't because you guys pulled me into cussing. It was a point that I was trying to make. Sometimes you just got to curse at people. Even the apostle, for God's sake, the apostle Paul wished castration on a certain group of people in the Bible. So there's a time for strong language, right? But I just feel like, I want to get out of this N-word thing, man. I gotta get off the ship on this one. It weakens my argument, DaVinci, and there's nothing I hate more than my arguments being weak.
All right. Well, I wished you the best of luck in all your endeavors.
And seeing as how I'm gonna be drinking Hennessy with this man, I'm giving up one stereotype for another. Right?
Oh, so you're gonna be drinking Henny? Can we bring the watermelon? You know,
Nope.
the Crown Royal, the apple joint.
It's Chrissy's birthday, man. It's he will do whatever he wants to do, man. I might eat it. I ain't eating that shit on camera.
Chicken and waffles and watermelon too.
So I think the plan for tomorrow after the show was to do wings and Hennessy.
Yeah, good luck with that.
See, that's what I told them. I told them Steve was going to be the only one. He was probably going to eat a chicken, but he damn sure wasn't going to be on camera.
Now, Steve. Now, Steve.
I had turkey legs for dinner last night, man. That shit was so good. And I had chicken waiting for me upstairs. And my chicken moments are very intimate to me, so I'm not gonna give any.
He be cleaning them bones. I just know it. Ain't no meat left on them bones. He be sucking them dry, cracking them open, licking the marrow out. That's Steve.
Hey yo. Would you eat the gristle?
Oh, the gristle. Hey, you need that gristle to get that little last piece of ranch out.
It's absolutely true, man. I found out about turkey legs last night, man. Those things are like huge, right? Not much meat on them though. I don't know.
What? Where do you be buying turkey legs?
From the natural places.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, if you get one of the organic turkey legs from the grocery store, they start out big, but man, it's so much water in them. Like by the time you're done cooking them, it's not as much meat as you think it would be.
Man,
it's not like the festival turkey legs.
Those turkey legs, they on steroids. They on all the juices.
Man, because that's what I like. You can eat a turkey leg for a whole meal. Like that is the meal. That is all you need. Like, I make a whole thing of like cabbage like with the turkey leg, and you just need one because them bitches got hella salt in them. And so you have to cook it with the vegetables before you eat it, or else it'll be too salty.
Listen, I am 6'2", 6'3", 235 pounds. One turkey leg ain't doing nothing to me. I took 2 of those things for lunch today, and I was like, bam, ate them in the car. And I was like, I'm still hungry. Still hungry, man. That's why I don't think keto is going to work for your boy.
I don't know how I can eat like one turkey leg, and that I will be so full. I'll be so full by the end of it. Like, I'll be like, why did I do that? I'll be turkey drunk on the couch.
IGN, that's funny. You know what every Asian uncle drinks? Heineken. We're getting the hell out of here, folks. Make sure you tune back in tomorrow night. Request Box Live. First episode premiering with DJ Cincy Star at 10 p.m. Right, my brother? You keeping it at that time? Or 10 p.m. Eastern over on Mixcloud, presented by the Hold Up TV. That's directly after Power Love Latinas. And then Friday, Enough Said Radio. Wait, today's Tuesday. What am I talking about?
No, today's
Tuesday?
No, today's Wednesday. Wait, today's Wednesday.
Okay.
I don't have the day off. Yeah, so we got Power Love Latinas, and then we got Request Box Live, and then Friday, Enough Said Radio, and then Booty Poppin' Shakin'. Get the whole weekend cracking. We're getting the hell out of here. Much love to Bex. I don't know if anyone spoke to her today. Hopefully she's okay. Hopefully she had the blicky on her, whatever is going down. And we'll catch y'all next time. Peace.
Bye.